Welcome. My name is Larry Flick. I am a professor at a college in Connecticut. This short video will be on leadership. Leadership is a subject that has been studied and evaluated since the beginning of time. There is a vast amount of information and documentation on the subject. The intent of this 10 to 12 minute video is to introduce basic contemporary theories on leadership and provide some practical conclusions. It is interesting. Gary Uckel, an authority on leadership, says there are almost as many definitions of leadership as there are persons who have attempted to define the concept. He further states that leadership has been defined in terms of traits, behaviors, influence, interaction patterns, role relationships, and occupation of an administrative position. One of the more current definitions of leadership is the ability of an individual to influence, motivate, and enable others to effectively contribute towards the success of achieving organizational goals. For many years, it was common to view leadership as a process wherein leaders influence followers to believe it is in their own best interest to cooperate in achieving organizational goals. Let's start by defining some of the terms used in this definition. Influence is the capacity to have an effect on the behavior of someone. Synonyms for the word influence are altered, changed, determined, formed, motivated, moved, persuaded, shaped, or swayed. So good leaders have the ability to influence others. The next word in the definition is motivate. The short definition is the reason one has for acting in a particular way. So now, you have to influence people by motivating them to act in a particular way by convincing them that it is in their own self-interest to do so. The next word is enable. To enable means to give someone the authority and/or means to do something. Next, let's look at the words effective and success. Being effective can be defined as efficiently producing a desired or intended result. Effectiveness is far more important than efficiency. Effectiveness describes getting an outcome even if it takes longer. It is the art of getting things done. Efficiency is the art of getting to that outcome faster. Being successful means the achievement of desired goals. So now, to be a good leader, you not only have to influence people by giving them a reason for acting in a particular way, you have to enable them by giving them the authority to effectively and successfully obtain the desired goals. Now that we have defined leadership, let's take a look at some contemporary approaches. There are 4 approaches that seem to be in tune with leadership today. They are, number 1, level 5 leadership. Number 2, servant leadership. Number 3, authentic leadership. And number 4, interactive leadership. A study conducted by Jim Collins identified the critical importance of what he calls level 5 leadership in transforming companies from merely good to truly great organizations. As described in his book, Good to Great, Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't, level 5 leadership refers to the highest level in a hierarchy of manager capabilities, as illustrated here. The illustration goes from capable to contributing to competent to effective to level 5 and gives a brief description of each. You may want to pause the video to take a longer look. A key characteristic of a level 5 leader is an almost complete lack of ego coupled with a fierce resolve to do what is best for the organization, where humility means being unpretentious and modest rather than arrogant and prideful. Level 5 leaders often seem shy and self-effacing. They give credit for successes to others. They build organizations based on solid values with unwavering resolve to do whatever is needed to make the company successful over the long term. This attitude becomes highly evident in succession planning, where Level 5 leaders develop a solid core of leaders throughout the organization so that when they leave, the company can continue to thrive and grow ever stronger. Now, let's talk about servant leadership. A servant leader is one who transcends self-interest to serve others, the organization, and society. In organizations, servant leaders operate on two levels. Number one, for the fulfillment of their subordinates' goals and needs, and number two, for the realization of the larger purpose or mission of their organization. Jack Welch, ex-chairman and CEO of General Electric, would tell MBA students that any time you are managing people, your job is not about you, it's about them. Servant leaders give things away: power, ideas, information, recognition, credit for accomplishments, and even money. Bill Gates of Microsoft said, "As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others." Another popular concept in leadership today is the idea of authentic leadership, which refers to individuals who know and understand themselves, who espouse and act consistent with higher-order ethical values, and who empower and inspire others with their openness and authenticity. Authentic leaders inspire trust and commitment because they respect diverse viewpoints, encourage collaboration, and help others learn, grow, and develop as leaders. This diagram outlines the key characteristics of authentic leaders. You may want to pause to take a look. The last approach is interactive leadership. Interactive leadership means that the leader favors a consensual and collaborative process, and influence derives from relationships rather than position power and formal authority. Some of the general characteristics associated with Level 5 leaders and authentic leaders are also hallmarks of interactive leadership, which has been found to be more associated with female leaders than male leaders. As this table shows, research has indicated that a woman's style of leadership is typically different from that of most men and is particularly suited to today's organizations. You may want to pause to look at this table in a little more detail. Although interactive leadership is associated with a woman's style of leading, both men and women can be effective as interactive leaders. Okay, now we have defined leadership and discussed the four approaches that seem to be in tune with leadership today. What conclusions can we draw? I think that we can conclude that leadership is a moving target and that a single definition or approach will not work in all situations. However, I feel that the initial definition we gave is as good as any. To repeat, leadership is the ability of an individual to influence, motivate, and enable others to effectively contribute towards the success of achieving organizational goals. To implement this definition, the contemporary thinking is to utilize one or a combination of approaches that we have described. As this diagram indicates, it is important to understand that the approaches overlap and that combinations are certainly acceptable. It is interesting that Steve Jobs, past Apple CEO, made the comment that innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. So possibly we should bring that into our definition in the future. One final comment that you may find interesting. A few years back, I asked a Principles of Management class of mine to bring in names of the top 3 leaders ever and reasons why they chose them. More than 1/3 had Jesus Christ at the top of their list. Interesting.